Well, good morning, students. What a great day today it's gonna be. I'm not gonna lie, I'm more excited because I'm bringing on a special guest today that will be teaching you today's lesson. We are a week away from Easter, which is now we're going into an Easter curriculum. The last 5 weeks we've been talking about doubt, and so this week and next week we'll be talking about Easter. And but I want to give you a couple announcements before we get started. Number one, we're doing our Marco Polo challenges still. I think we're on day 11 or 12. They've been so much fun, so many different winners, and I've been going to people's houses and dropping off prizes. But here's the thing, because of the new law that the governor has put out, I'm going to hold off on driving to people's houses. And instead, I'm just going to keep track of all the winners, and then when we come back together at the church, we'll do a huge rewards ceremony. It'll be fun. Next up, please stay connected with me. Facebook, YouTube. I do have Snapchat. I call it Slapchat. Snapchat and Instagram. I don't use them very often, but please feel free to message me on those. And then the last thing is Marco Polo, like I mentioned. It's really fun. Stay connected with me. Emails as well. So without further ado, let me introduce you to my beautiful wife, Janelle. She's going to take it away.
Well, good morning, everyone. I am so sad not to see all your faces, but I have to say I'm grateful that we can still get together for Sunday mornings. So let's get started. This is Jonathan, for anyone who doesn't know.
Are you in love?
I am in love. Are you in love?
I'm in love too.
I agree.
Now, Easter is next weekend, which is crazy. It's come flying up, but we've all been a little distracted. So growing up, I had some fun Easter traditions. Of course, making and decorating eggs and then hiding them Sunday morning before church. We always had a wooden egg that was all painted and fancy that my mom would fill with candy, and each of us kids would be able to find one wooden egg and then a bunch of just real eggs colored. And it was so much fun. Then we go to church and then go to my grandparents in the afternoon to have a family dinner together. And that's what our Easters looked like, and I loved it. So, are there any black jelly bean lovers out there? Because my husband is among you, and I have to say I don't understand it at all. I think that they're absolutely disgusting, and I'm just not a fan of the black licorice taste. Ugh. But jelly beans, we have a little sort of fun activity for you to do. If you follow the instructions at the bottom of the screen, you can tell us what your favorite jelly bean color is. And you have from now, 9 o'clock, until 1 o'clock this afternoon to get on there and do that. And it's going to be a live poll until then. And then at 1 o'clock, Pastor Steve will post it on the Facebook student page what the favorite color is. I'm not even sure what mine is because honestly, I don't like jelly beans whatsoever. But I'd probably have to go with red because red's pretty safe. It's usually cherry or strawberry or raspberry. Those are always good. So the point in talking about jelly beans here is actually for an illustration that does have to do with the lesson today. Alright, so imagine that you had a handful of these beautiful colored jelly beans and you're so excited to eat the deliciousness that you just stuff the whole thing in your mouth and start eating it. But then suddenly you realize that all of those colors taste like the black jelly beans.
Want a glass of water? Need something to drink?
Could I have a milkshake or something?
Now let's make it even worse. Say that you had a friend with you and you both had a handful of those beautiful colored jelly beans and you both eat them out of pure joy and excitement, and your friend, their jelly beans actually taste like the beautiful, delicious taste that they're supposed to. And then yours, again, tastes just like black jelly beans. It's just disgusting. And so as you're like spitting these things out of your mouth, your friend is over there saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry, so sorry."
Yeah, I know, those are disgusting." And you're sitting there going like, "Thank you, I appreciate that, but it doesn't really mean anything because you just enjoyed amazingly delicious jelly beans and mine were gross." So say that did happen. How would you feel about the person who ate the really good jelly beans? But what if your friend then said, "Hey, I'm really sorry, that happened to me once before. It's so disgusting." So if someone were to give you comfort or an encouraging pep talk while you're eating those disgusting jelly beans, I'm assuming that you'd rather it be from someone who has been there before and done the same thing, rather than by someone who doesn't know how gross they are. When you have to endure something awful, comfort seems to be more powerful when it comes from someone who knows what it's like.
I've been there, I've done that.
I don't know what kind of difficulty that you or your family have been through this year. Maybe the worst thing that happened was, trying to eat a really spicy chicken wing, or maybe you had a really tough soccer practice.
Oh! The cannon has fired and hit Sterling directly to the face with the approach. Oh! Yes, as his trainer takes him off the field like a mustached lion dragging a gazelle through the Serengeti.
Or maybe the tough times you're going through are pretty ordinary, but still exhausting, like trying to navigate friend drama, getting your grades up, deciding where to go for college. Or maybe you've been walking through something more difficult, like a sickness or a loss, rejection, stress over a lot of things,
It's all I had left of Riley.
I bet you and Riley had great adventures.
Oh, they were wonderful. Once we flew back in time, we had breakfast twice.
Yeah, I bet Riley liked it.
Oh, she did. We were best friends.
Yeah, it's sad.
I'm okay now.
When we're experiencing a really tough time, sometimes the thing we need most is comfort from someone who's gone through it before. When life gets tough, it's easy to feel alone, like we're the only person who's ever experienced what we're experiencing, and no one else could possibly know what we're going through. Even though people can tell us God's with us, it can still feel like we're going through it alone, especially when your friends turn their backs on you, when you don't make the team or pass the test, or get the job, or win the award, or you just can't fall asleep. When life is difficult, we might wonder, why in the world did this happen? Should I just give up? Is it worth it? And it might come as a surprise, possibly, but Jesus understands what it's like to ask those questions too. So if you've been around church before, you've probably heard that Jesus died and then rose again a few days later. And that is what we celebrate on Easter Sunday. But before we talk about what happened after Jesus died, let's talk a little bit about what happened before, because I think Jesus has a little something to show us about suffering. Now, if you want to really understand the story of what happened, read all of Matthew chapter 26. But for the sake of time, right now we're just going to read verses 36 through 39. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Going a little farther, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will." In this one chapter, Jesus experienced more suffering than we could possibly imagine. He said goodbye to his friends, who was plotted against, let down by everyone he loved, arrested, taken to trial, sentenced to death, spit on, beaten, and betrayed by 2 of his closest friends. We might imagine Jesus walking toward death with complete peace and composure. But the account of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane tells a very different story. The biblical accounts of this moment say Jesus was overwhelmed in anguish and exhausted because he knew exactly what was about to happen. They even tell us that Jesus' sweat turned to blood, a condition that can actually happen under extreme stress. In the final hours before he died, we find him asking God, is there any other way? Now, if I were Jesus, I would also be asking, is this worth it? Are they worth it? These people who've betrayed me, who've forgotten about me, who humiliated me, hurt me, not to mention want to kill me, are they really worth the pain?
A rancid apple core, 2 worm-eaten banana peels, a moldy rice cake, a dried-up pickle, tin of sardine bones, a pile of broken eggshells, an old smushed-up rotten gizzard with maggots all over it.
Okay, it's worth it.
And if I were Jesus, my answer might have been no. Now, not only did Jesus suffer, but many, many people suffered in the first century because of their faith in Jesus. The Roman government was threatened by Jesus' teachings and the movement that began, which meant his followers endured all kinds of suffering and oppression. Naturally, this made some of them start thinking, well, is this Jesus thing really worth it? And that is where the book of Hebrews comes in. Hebrews was written as a letter to these followers as encouragement when they started wondering if all the pain and suffering was really worth it. The author tells these followers of Jesus to stay strong, to not drift away, and to remember that Jesus understands what it feels like to suffer. Let's read a few verses in Hebrews 2. But we do see Jesus, who was made lower than the angels for a little while, now crowned with glory and honor because he suffered death, so that by the grace of God he might taste death for everyone. And 17 through 18. For this reason he had to be made like them, fully human in every way, in order that he might become a merciful and faithful high priest in service to God, and that he might make atonement for the sins of the people. Because he himself suffered when he was tempted, he is able to help those who are being tempted. And 4:14 through 16. Therefore, since we have a great high priest who has ascended into heaven, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold firmly to the faith we profess. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way just as we are, yet he did not sin. Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. So those verses call Jesus our great high priest. And in Jewish culture, a high priest was someone who made sacrifices to God when people messed up. He connected people to God and prayed to God for the people. But the writer says that Jesus is our new high priest. He didn't just make sacrifices, he became a sacrifice. He became the sacrifice on our behalf. He gave up his own life as that sacrifice to make a way for us to be connected with God now and forever. We can go straight to God, we can pray straight to God. And now as Jesus is in heaven, he represents us before God. But these Jesus followers weren't struggling because they needed help or convincing to believe that Jesus was God. It was because life got hard. They didn't need a convincing argument. They needed comfort in the middle of suffering. The writer of Hebrews told the early followers of Jesus, and us too, to hang on, to know that Jesus understands what it is to suffer, that he suffered and he is right there with us to go through the difficult times.
You ready?
Yeah?
You're gonna love this.
Okay! I'm not gonna watch! I'm not gonna watch! Stop looking! Stop looking!
So we've already said that comfort means more when it comes from someone who understands what you're going through and what it's like to suffer. And if that's true, then Jesus is the best person to be there with you and to support you and encourage you because he knows better than anyone what it's like to suffer. When life gets hard, one of the reasons that we can hold on to Jesus is because he understands exactly what we're going through and he's with us every step of the way. So, is it worth it? When Jesus stared death and torture and humiliation in the face, he decided that you were worth it. So, life isn't always easy. Following Jesus isn't always easy. There might be days when you want to give up. But on those days, I really hope that you can remember that God is with you and know that the Jesus who suffered suffers with you. Jesus knows how you feel, and his heart is breaking when yours is. Sometimes there's no greater comfort in the midst of pain than simply knowing that someone else gets it. So isn't it incredible news to know that the Jesus who suffered suffers with you? So everyone, I hope that you have a great week, and thanks for tuning in.